The developers have finally brought the horror back to Dead by Daylight. And no, I'm not talking about the in-game shop. I know this is scary, but not this. And you might be thinking right now, but BoyDilly, Dead by Daylight has always been a horror game. And you're kind of right, let me explain it to you. Okay, so I got into Dead by Daylight back in June of 2018. When I got into this game was scary as shit and I was honestly afraid to play Survivor. But even though I got into this game 6 years ago, which technically makes me a grandpa, this game has been around since 2016. Back in those days, Dead by Daylight was extremely serious about horror. The name of the game itself indicates that back in the day there was absolutely no plans for this game to have a daylight themed maps. This game was supposed to be extremely dark and foggy, and daylight should have never even existed in this game. And the first map and killer in Dead by Daylight set a tone for this dark gameplay loop. Back in those days, the Trapper really had his place in Dead by Daylight, and even though nowadays the Trapper is considered to be the weakest, or at least one of the weakest killers in Dead by Daylight, back in the day, he was one of the best killers in DBD, because this game was extremely dark and you didn't have to bring any offerings to make this game foggy. In fact, there was no such offering yet. And not only was every map dark and foggy, but also every map had grass, so the Trapper could easily place his traps, and survivors were seriously afraid of this killer. And this game wasn't just scary back in the beta or alpha days. This game was scary for quite a while. Michael Myers was the first licensed character in Dead by Daylight, and keep in mind that back in the day this game was an indie game. This game wasn't huge and it wasn't developed by many people. So for a small group of developers to get Michael Myers into the game, and Michael Myers is one of the most iconic horror characters, it's huge, almost like my cock. And gameplay wise, in my opinion, Michael Myers is still the scariest killer to ever be introduced into Dead by Daylight. Especially for beginners, to get to play against Michael Myers, it feels extremely scary, and Dead by Daylight was supposed to be this scary and creepy game. And I understand that Dead by Daylight was made to be this very replayable game, and you cannot replay a horror game again and again and still get scared, because horror is all about the unexpected situations. So this game was bound to become a not scary game for more advanced players someday anyway. And we will go back to talking about Michael Myers very soon, but developers have realized that they had created a very addictive game, and people really enjoy Dead by Daylight, and it's only a matter of time when those players with hundreds of hours in Dead by Daylight will lose the sensitivity to horror and will start to think that this game is not scary. And keep in mind that DBD is more than a game, it's a business to developers and publishers. That's how these people make money, so they decided to do what smart people would do, and they decided to expand Dead by Daylight beyond horror by adding some very crazy characters, which if you told me a couple years ago that, for example, Nicolas Cage would be added into Dead by Daylight, I wouldn't have believed you. Yet for some reason we got a fucking K-pop star killing people, what the fuck? I mean, seriously, at this point just remove the trickster from the game, nobody cares. But yeah, I hope now you get the idea why throughout the years Dead by Daylight has lost its horror vibe. And to me, as a very big horror fan, it's sad because I'm constantly looking for something that can be scary, entertaining and fun all at the same time. I found Dead by Daylight back in the day. This game was scary as fuck. It was everything I was looking for, but honestly, I cannot expect a single game to remain scary day after day. You know, the horror will not be there after a couple days of continuously playing the same game. However, Dead by Daylight developers have finally brought the horror back into Dead by Daylight. Temporarily, but it works because, as I mentioned before, horror is temporary. It's only a matter of time until the thing that's scary to you will become kind of comedic. And of course, I'm talking about the newest Dead by Daylight's modifier called Lights Out Castlevania, which is the second iteration of the Lights Out game mode. You can see the gameplay in the background, and as a horror fan, I'm really surprised with what we got here. So let's talk about it. But before that, smack that subscribe button if you want me to stick my big penis up your dad's butthole. Okay, so you can see some real gameplay of this newest modifier. You should definitely try it out. I'm not too sure when is the end date of this event, but it is temporary and I understand why. Look at these eyes around in the sky. Like, there are a bunch of these vampire Dracula kind of eyes, and even bats flying all around, and this might get confusing, especially if you are playing against the Dracula killer, which can transform himself into a bat, and there are hundreds of bats just randomly flying around. It's constant tension, if you know what I mean. But in this video right now, as you can see, I'm repairing a generator, and wait a second, I'm looking around for a killer, and look at that! There's Michael Myers!
Look at that! There's Michael Myers!
There is Michael Myers, did you see him? He is right there in the corner, it's very hard to spot him. As you can see, no terror radius, no red stain, nothing. You just have to look around for the killer's surroundings, and it sounds killer-sided, and it is killer-sided, but on the other hand, the killer will not be able to see your scratch marks, which means that you can run around without the fear of killer being able to track you, so it's hard for the killer as well. And the fog on this map is incredibly thick, just like my friend's mom. Another scary thing is that you will not be able to check how many generators have been repaired, how much of the generator progress has been repaired, or how much of the healing progress has left to go until another survivor is fully healed. And I know that these situations don't sound scary, but trust me, sometimes you're healing a survivor for an extended period of time, you cannot check the progress of the healing, and then you see the killer approaching you from far away, and you have no idea if you should continue to heal that survivor and you will make it in time, or if you should just stop healing that survivor and run away, because you cannot check the progress. Not to mention that when you are in a chase and you're running away from the killer, the fog is just very thick, so it's very easy to get lost, and it's very easy to lose the sight of the killer too, because the fog is just so thick. Sometimes you feel like you're safe because you just ran away and the killer just approaches you from another side. If you want to say that this game mode is totally killer-sided, I agree with that, but I don't think that it's a problem, because this is a really scary game mode. You can choose to play it or you can choose not to play it, but if you choose to play it, then get ready for some real jump scares. I mean, even me, after playing this game for 3,000 hours, I'm really enjoying this game mode because I find it kind of like horror, very horror related. You can choose to play either as a killer or as a survivor, and there are some things that will help you to win your matches as a survivor. For example, there is this light source that you can have in your arms. You start the match by carrying one, so you don't have to think about it much, but you can activate it to see where is the closest generator through the walls. So unlike the first iteration of this game mode, which was incredibly killer-sided, you couldn't even see where the generators are unless you stumble right upon them, but this time you can see the generators through the walls by using this light source, so I think it's fair. And the match will begin with every single generator on the map having a little bit of progress already repaired, so you can repair generators faster. It's also a little bit scary because there are no perks, no add-ons, no offerings. It's just a raw Dead by Daylight experience in a total darkness with a lot of thick fog, random killers and no scratch marks, no terror radius. So far I'm really enjoying it, and I'm a person who loves to complain about Dead by Daylight. I hate so many things about this game, yet I really love this game, but I have to tell you that this modifier is pretty good. Not as good as 2v8 in my opinion, but it's good in a different way. Anyway, leave your opinions down below. I got some work to do right now. I will see you in my next Dead by Daylight video. Bye bye.